Subscribe now and hit the like button if you believe in second chances. Comment below. What's the biggest betrayal you've ever witnessed? The billionaire's disguise and the hotel receptionist. He treated her like any other customer, completely unaware he was the billionaire behind the very hotel she worked in. Are you seriously going to lie to my face again? Sarah's voice trembled with fury, papers clutched in her hand. Did you think I'd never find out who you really are? David froze in the hotel lobby, employees turning to stare, the world seemingly caving in. Sarah, please, let me explain. Explain what? That David Miller doesn't exist? That you own this entire hotel chain? That while I was telling you my dreams of having my own little hotel, you already owned hundreds? But that confrontation would have to wait. It all began 3 months ago, on a rainy Thursday night. The rain hammered against the grand windows of the Regal Palace Hotel like tiny hammers. Sarah Jenkins adjusted her uniform and checked the clock. 11 o'clock. Her shift had started quietly, but she knew rainy nights always brought unexpected guests. She'd been working the night shift at reception for 3 years. It wasn't the job she'd dreamed of when she studied economics, but after her dad died in that accident, someone had to support the family. Her mom worked as a seamstress, and it wasn't enough to cover the house expenses and her sister Chloe's university fees. The hotel's revolving door swung open, and a drenched man walked in. He carried an expensive suitcase that contrasted sharply with his disheveled appearance. His dark hair was disheveled by the rain, and he had several days' growth of beard. His blue eyes looked tired. "Good evening," Sarah said with her professional smile. "How may I help you?" "I have a reservation, David Miller." Sarah typed the name into the computer. The system was slower than usual to respond. "Apologies for the delay. The rain's affecting the internet," she explained as she waited. "Are you coming from far?" Daniel Hayes observed her with curiosity. He wasn't used to hotel receptionists making genuine conversation. "From London. I'm a travel writer." "How interesting." Sarah's eyes lit up. "I've never met a travel writer. Have you been to Edinburgh before?" "No, it's my first time." The computer finally loaded the information. "Room 5. A standard suite." Sarah noticed he'd paid in advance, and the watch on his wrist looked quite expensive for someone booking basic rooms. "Perfect, Mr. Miller. Room 512, 5th floor." She handed him the key card. "If I may make a recommendation, there's a cafe 3 blocks away that makes the best pastries in town. It's called Granny's Bakehouse." Daniel took the card, surprised by her kindness. "Pastries? Yes, but not the touristy ones downtown. These are the real deal." Sarah grabbed a hotel notepad and drew him a small map. "Turn left when you leave. Walk 2.5 blocks. It's next to a bookshop. It doesn't have a big sign, but trust me, it's worth it." No one had drawn him a hand-drawn map in years. Daniel Hayes, owner of the largest hotel chain in Europe, was used to being recognized and treated with exaggerated reverence. This girl treated him like any other guest. "Thank you." He read her name tag. "Sarah, that's what we're here for. If you need anything else, I'll be here until 6 in the morning." Daniel headed for the lifts, but something made him turn around. Sarah had gone back to her work, organizing papers with a concentration that spoke of someone who took her job seriously. For the next 3 days, Daniel found excuses to pass by reception. Officially, he was in Edinburgh to do a surprise inspection of the property, but there was something about the nocturnal conversations with Sarah that kept him hooked. She told him about her favorite books, about her sister who was studying medicine, about how she had learned to love Edinburgh after growing up in a small town in Scotland. He invented stories about his imaginary travels, being careful not to reveal too much. "And how did you decide to be a travel writer?" Sarah asked him on the 3rd night, as they drank coffee she'd made in the small reception coffee maker. Daniel had studied architecture before inheriting his family's hotel empire. It was the only real thing he could share. I always liked architecture. Buildings tell stories. Then I realized that places tell them too. What a beautiful way to look at it. Sarah smiled. I always wanted to have my own hotel. Small, cozy, where guests felt at home, not like a money-making machine. Her words hit him. Was that what his hotels had become? Money-making machinen? On the 5th night, Daniel had decided to extend his stay indefinitely. Mark, his partner and best friend since childhood, had called him 5 times. Shareholders were asking about him, but for the first time in years, Daniel felt light. He was heading down for dinner when he overheard Sarah talking on the phone. Her voice sounded tense. "Chloe, I know the deadline is tomorrow. I'm going to get the money, I promise. No, you can't quit university. Dad would have wanted you to finish medicine." She hung up and stayed for a moment with her head in her hands. Daniel approached slowly. "Everything all right?" Sarah startled and quickly composed her professional smile. "Yes, of course. You're going out for dinner?" "Sarah, if you need help." "Thank you, Mr. Miller. But I don't accept charity from guests. It's a personal rule." Daniel nodded, but something churned in his stomach. That night, when he returned to the hotel, he found Richard Stone, the manager, waiting for him in the lobby. "Mr. Hayes," Richard said loudly, "I didn't know you were—" "Shh!" Daniel quickly glanced towards reception. Sarah was busy with other guests. "Not a word about who I am. Understood?" Richard looked confused, but nodded. "Of course, sir. Can we speak in private?" Daniel felt his double life was about to collapse. What do you think Daniel will do to keep his identity a secret? Share your predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more thrilling revelations. A glimpse of a different life. Daniel managed to convince Richard to keep his identity a secret, claiming he was conducting a special evaluation of the hotel. The manager, accustomed to the eccentricities of billionaire owners, agreed without further questions. In the following days, Daniel began to see Edinburgh in a completely new way. Sarah, believing he was truly a travel writer with free time, offered to show him the real city during her breaks. "Tourists always go to the same places," she told him, as they walked through the cobbled streets of Dean Village on a Sunday afternoon. "But the real Edinburgh is in the neighborhoods, in the markets, in the corners where people truly live." Daniel had never walked through Dean Village without a security escort. He'd never haggled for the price of an old book in the flea market. Nor had he sat in a square listening to a street musician play the accordion. "Look," Sarah stopped in front of a pastry stall. "These are better than Granny's bakehouse." The vendor, an elderly man with a stained apron, smiled when he saw her. "Sarah, how's your mum?" "Good, Mr. McGregor. Working hard, as always. And this young lady," he told Daniel, "always brings good people to my stall. She has a good eye for people." Daniel felt a strange pang. Did Sarah have a good eye for people, or did she just not know how to recognize a liar? They bought pastries and sat on a bench in the square. The afternoon sun painted everything golden, and Daniel realized he hadn't checked his phone in hours. "Don't you ever get tired of working nights?" he asked her. "Sometimes," Sarah admitted, "but I like the quiet. And besides, they pay a bit more for the night shift. Every penny counts." "For your sister's university?" Sarah looked at him, surprised. "I overheard you talking on the phone the other night. Sorry, I didn't mean to pry." "Don't worry," she sighed. "Yes, Chloe's studying medicine. She's in her 4th year, but the last semesters are the most expensive. Since Dad died, things have been difficult." Daniel wanted to tell her he could pay for her sister's university without even noticing it in his bank account. Instead, he asked, "And your dream of a hotel? When do you plan to make it a reality?" Sarah's eyes lit up. "Someday. I have everything planned in my head. It would be small, maybe 20 rooms, each decorated differently with local art. It would have a library, a garden, where guests could have breakfast, and above all, it would be a place where people felt at home, not like just another number. Daniel listened, fascinated. His hotels had hundreds of identical rooms, designed for efficiency, not warmth. And where would it be? The Scottish Highlands, perhaps. Or right here, in a neighborhood like this, far from the tourist center, but close to real life. A week later, Sarah took him to a tango class at a small milonga. "I don't know how to dance," Daniel protested. "No one is born knowing. Come, I'll teach you." Their hands touched for the first time when she showed him the basic steps. Daniel had danced at galas and corporate events, always with the same formal steps. This was different. There was passion, history, something authentic he had never experienced. "You're good at it," Sarah smiled when they managed to complete a sequence without stumbling. "I have a good teacher." Their eyes met, and for a moment, time stood still. Daniel felt something he had never felt before, the sensation of being truly seen for who he was, not for what he had. But the magic broke when his phone vibrated insistently. It was Mark, his 10th message of the day. "Sorry, I have to answer," Daniel apologized. He stepped out of the milonga and answered the call. "Daniel, where on earth are you? The merger with the European group signs next week, and you've disappeared in Edinburgh." "I'm working, Mark." "Working? The hotel manager says you haven't set foot in the administrative offices since you arrived. What's going on?" Daniel looked inside where Sarah waited with a worried smile. "It's complicated. Everything's complicated when you have a company to run." "Daniel, this isn't like you. What's really happening?" Before he could answer, someone knocked on the door. Daniel opened it and found Sarah with a breakfast tray. "Good morning. I thought you might like a real Scottish breakfast." She stopped when she saw Mark. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know you had a visitor." "Don't worry," Daniel said quickly. "Sarah, this is Mark, a friend from London. Mark, this is Sarah. She works at reception." Mark observed the interaction with hawk-like eyes, the way Daniel said Sarah's name, the smile she gave him, the familiarity between them. "Pleased to meet you, Sarah," Mark said with his corporate charm. "Daniel has told me a lot about you." "Really?" Sarah looked surprised. He hadn't mentioned he had friends in the city. "I just arrived," Mark lied smoothly. "For work." Daniel felt the floor move beneath his feet. He knew that look in Mark's eyes. His friend had understood exactly what was happening, and he didn't like it one bit. "Well, I'll leave you to your breakfast," Sarah said. "Daniel, are we still on for this afternoon? I wanted to show you the Royal Mile." "Of course." When Sarah left, Mark closed the door and turned to Daniel with a serious expression. "Have you gone mad?" "Mark." "No, Daniel. Have you seriously gone completely mad? That girl is in love with you." "I know. And does she know who you really are?" Daniel's silence was answer enough. "My God." Mark slumped into an armchair. "Daniel, you're the CEO of Hayes Hotel Group. You have a fortune worth billions of pounds, and you're playing travel writer to flirt with a receptionist. It's not like that." "Oh, it's not? Then what is it?" "I'm in love with her." The words came out before he could stop them. Mark looked at him as if he'd grown a second head. "Daniel, love is beautiful, but you have responsibilities. You have employees who depend on you, shareholders who trust you. You can't throw everything away for an affair." "It's not an affair. And what do you plan to do? Tell her the truth and hope she doesn't feel deceived, or live a lie forever?" Daniel had no answer for that. What would you advise Daniel to do? Tell the truth or keep the secret? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more intense drama. The weight of the lie. For the next few days, the pressure intensified. Mark stayed in Edinburgh, officially to review operations. But Daniel knew it was to keep an eye on him. Every conversation with Sarah felt forced. Every smile seemed like another lie. Sarah began to notice the change. "Is everything all right?" she asked one night as they walked along Leith Walk. "You've been very quiet since your friend arrived." "Yes, just work." "Daniel, can I ask you something? And I want you to be honest with me." Daniel's stomach nodded. "Of course. Are you really a travel writer?" The question caught him off guard. "Why do you ask that?" "Because I've noticed things. Your watch is very expensive for someone traveling on a tight budget. Your shoes are Italian. And when you talk about hotels, it sounds like you know them from the inside. And your friend Mark, he doesn't seem like the type of person who makes friends with travel writers. He looks like a corporate executive." Daniel felt the walls closing in around him. "It's complicated." "Is everything complicated with you?" Sarah's voice hardened. "Look, Daniel, I'm falling in love with you, but I can't fall in love with someone who doesn't tell me the truth." Daniel looked her in the eyes, seeing the pain and confusion he had caused. He wanted to tell her everything at that moment. But Mark's words echoed in his head. "And what do you plan to do? Tell her the truth and hope she doesn't feel deceived?" "Sarah, His phone rang. It was Mark. "Answer it," Sarah said sadly. "Your work is always more important." Daniel saw Mark on the screen and rejected the call. "No, you're more important." But the damage was already done. Sarah had stepped back, and for the first time since they met, there was a distance between them that had nothing to do with physical space. "I think we should go back to the hotel," she said quietly. They walked in silence, and Daniel knew his time was running out. Soon, he would have to choose between his real world and the world he had built with Sarah, and he was beginning to fear he couldn't have both. If you were Sarah, would you forgive Daniel if he told you the truth now? Or is it too late? Share your honest feelings in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the heartbreaking climax, a crisis and a revelation. Daniel had made a decision. That night he would tell Sarah the whole truth. Consequences no longer mattered. He couldn't continue lying to the woman he had fallen in love with. But fate had other plans. At 3 a.m, Sarah's phone rang at reception. Daniel saw her pale as she spoke. "What? When? I'm on my way immediately." "What happened?" Daniel asked. Approaching the counter. "It's Chloe. She's in the hospital. Appendicitis. She needs emergency surgery." Sarah was trembling as she fumbled for her keys in her handbag. Daniel could see she was on the verge of panic. "I'll drive you," he said without thinking. "No, you don't have to. Sarah, this is no time for pride. Come on." The drive to the hospital was tense. Sarah bit her nails, something Daniel had never seen her do. In the waiting room, they met Sarah's mum, a petite woman with tired but strong eyes. "Mum, how is she?" "They've operated on her. She's fine. But..." Mrs. Jenkins lowered her voice. "Sarah, the surgery cost more than we expected. The insurance doesn't cover everything, and we need to pay the difference before she's discharged." Sarah closed her eyes. Daniel saw the weight of the world falling on her shoulders. "How much?" £50,000. It was an amount Daniel spent on a dinner. For Sarah, it was impossible. "I'm going to get them money," Sarah said with determination. "I'll talk to the bank. Maybe I can get a loan." "Banks don't give loans that quickly, dear," her mother sighed. Daniel couldn't bear it any longer. "Mrs. Jenkins, may I speak with you for a moment?" They moved aside while Sarah went to see her sister. Daniel explained that he could cover the medical expenses, but Sarah's mother looked at him with suspicion. "You seem like a good man, but we know nothing about you, and Sarah won't accept charity." "It's not charity. It's a loan, interest-free, no rush to pay it back." Mrs. Jenkins studied him with eyes that had seen much of the world. "Do you care for my daughter?" The question surprised him. "Yes, madam, very much." "Then tell her the truth about who you are, because you're not travel writer, are you?" Daniel froze. "How did you know?" "My Sarah is smart, but her heart sometimes blinds her." "I see. You talk like a businessman. You dress like a man of money. I don't know what you're hiding, but if you want to help my family, first be honest with her." Before Daniel could respond, Sarah returned. "She's waking up. The doctor says she'll be fine, but she needs to stay 2 more days." "Mom, I've already spoken to the hospital. They'll wait until tomorrow for payment." Sarah nodded, but Daniel could see her mind was already desperately calculating how to get the money. The next day, Daniel went straight to Richard. "I need the hospital to receive a payment of £50,000, but it has to look like it's from the Employee Medical Assistance Fund." "Sir, we don't have such a fund." "Now you do. Create it, and make sure it appears on all documents as if it's always existed." Richard, accustomed to the strange orders of the wealthy, nodded without asking further questions. Sarah found out that same afternoon when she went to pay at the hospital. "Medical Assistance Fund?" she asked, confused. "I didn't know the hotel had that." "Yes, miss. It's for employee medical emergencies. Your case perfectly applied." Sarah felt relieved, but something didn't add up. She decided to investigate. First, she went to Richard. "How long has the Medical Assistance Fund existed?" For a while. It's a corporate policy." "But my contract doesn't say anything about it. There are additional benefits not specified in basic contracts." Richard's evasive answers made her more suspicious. That night, after her shift, she went to the administration office. She had keys to all areas of the hotel as a trusted employee. She checked the financial records. There was no medical assistance fund registered, but there was a transfer of $50,000 from a corporate account of Hayes Hotel Group. Sarah felt the air leave her lungs. With trembling hands, she searched for Hayes Hotel Group online. The website appeared immediately. In the executive section, she found a photo that took her breath away. Daniel Hayes, CEO and founder. The same face, the same blue eyes. Only, in the photo, he wore a designer suit and had a cold, corporate smile. Sarah printed the page and stared at the photo until her eyes filled with tears. It had all been a lie. The travel writer didn't exist. The man she had fallen in love with was one of the richest businessmen in Europe. She felt like an idiot. Worse, she felt like a toy a billionaire had amused himself with while playing at being a normal person. The next morning, Daniel arrived at the hotel as usual. Sarah was on her day shift, covering for a colleague. When he approached the counter with his usual warm smile, she placed the papers on the counter. "Are you seriously going to lie to my face again?" Her voice trembled with rage. "Did you think I'd never find out who you really are?" Daniel froze. Other guests and employees turned to look at them. "Sarah, please, let me explain." "Explain what? That David Miller doesn't exist? That you own this entire hotel chain?" She held up the papers. "That while I was telling you my dreams of having my own little hotel, you already owned hundreds?" "Sarah, my feelings for you are real." "Real?" Her voice rose. "Do you know what's real? That you've lied to me from day one. That you paid for my sister's surgery as if we were your charity project. It wasn't charity. I wanted to help you. And it didn't occur to you to ask me if I wanted your help? Or would that have ruined your little game of being the good, generous man?" Daniel saw the pain in her eyes and felt his heart break. "Please, give me a chance to explain." "There's nothing to explain." Sarah grabbed her things. "I'm going to ask Richard to transfer me to another hotel. I never want to see you again in my life. And give me back that money. I don't want anything from you." Sarah left the lobby with her head held high, but Daniel could see she was fighting back tears. He stood there, feeling as if he had lost something irreplaceable. Richard approached cautiously. "Mr. Hayes, do you need anything?" "Yes," Daniel said, not taking his eyes off the door where Sarah had exited. "I need you to get me the first flight to London." It was time to return to his real world, the world where he was Daniel Hayes, the billionaire, not David Miller, the man who had fallen in love with a hotel receptionist. What would you do in Daniel's shoes? How would you try to win back Sarah's trust? Or is it truly over? Share your raw emotions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the poignant conclusion. The path to redemption. 3 months had passed since Daniel returned to London. His office in the Hayes Tower, on the 45th floor, had a spectacular view of the city, but he barely noticed it. Financial reports piled up on his desk, all showing successful numbers that brought him no emotion. The merger with the European Hotel Group had been completed the previous week. He was now officially one of the richest men on the continent. He should have been celebrating. Instead, he stayed working late, avoiding his empty penthouse. "Daniel, you have to eat something." Mark walked into the office with a bag of food. "You can't live on coffee alone." "I'm not hungry." "Look, I know what happened in Edinburgh was tough, but it's over. You have to move on." Daniel looked up from his documents. "Have you ever been in love, Mark? Truly in love? In a way that completely changes you?" Mark sat across from him. "Yes, with Patricia. At first, my parents didn't accept her because she came from a middle-class family. They thought she wasn't good enough for me. And what did you do?" "I fought for her, because I realized she loved me for who I was, not for my surname or my money. And in the end, my parents understood." Daniel nodded slowly. "The difference is Patricia knew who you were from the beginning." Mark was silent for a moment. "Have you heard anything from her?" "No, and I'm not going to look for her. I lied to her, Mark. I hurt her. The best thing I can do is leave her alone." But that resolve was put to the test when Daniel began implementing changes throughout the hotel chain. Policies that Sarah had unknowingly mentioned. Better wages for night shift employees, a real medical assistance fund, education programs for staff. Every change reminded him of his nocturnal conversations in Edinburgh. Meanwhile, in Edinburgh, Sarah was working at the Hayes Hotel in the Stockbridge neighborhood. Richard had arranged her transfer without asking questions, but she knew the orders had come from above. Her new life was quieter. The hotel was smaller, less luxurious, but the atmosphere was more familiar. Her colleagues had become like a second family. "How's the project going?" Catherine, the head of reception, asked her as they reviewed the program Sarah had been developing. Sarah had channeled her pain into work. She had created an innovative customer service training system that focused on genuine human warmth, not just efficiency. "It's almost finished. I'm going to present it at the hotel conference next month." "Are you sure you want to present it? You know all the big industry executives will be there." Sarah knew Daniel might be at that conference. Part of her feared it, but another part had decided she wasn't going to hide from her own career because of him. "Yes, I'm sure." At home, Chloe had noticed the change in her sister. "Sarah, it's been 3 months. You have to forgive yourself." "Forgive myself for what? For falling in love?" "No, you didn't do anything wrong. I was an idiot, Chloe. I fell in love with a billionaire who was playing at being a normal person. Or did you fall in love with a man who found a part of himself with you that he had lost?" Sarah looked up from her computer. "What are you talking about?" "I've been reading about him. Daniel Hayes. After the incident, he implemented a lot of changes in his hotels. Better conditions for employees, education programs, more humane policies. Does that not change what he did to me?" "No, but maybe it means that what he felt for you was real." Sarah didn't want to admit that she had Googled Daniel's name several times, reading about the changes in his company. Nor did she want to admit that sometimes, at night, she missed their conversations. One afternoon, while checking her email, she found a message from the International Hotel Congress Organization. "Dear Miss Jenkins, we have reviewed your proposal on authentic hospitality, beyond standard service, and are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as one of the main presenters." Sarah read the message 3 times before it occurred to her that perhaps Daniel had influenced the selection in some way. Then she got angry with herself for thinking that. Her work was good, She had earned it on her own merit. 2 weeks before the Congress, something unexpected happened. Richard called her to his office. "Sarah, I have interesting news. Your training program has attracted the attention of other hotels, even other chains." "Really?" "Yes, and there's something else. I received information that Daniel Hayes is no longer the CEO of Hayes Hotel Group." Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. "What?" "He retired 2 weeks ago. He's still the owner, but he hired professional management. They say he's enrolled in a master's program in sustainable tourism." Sarah tried to process the information. Daniel had left his empire to study? "Why are you telling me this?" Richard looked at her with a paternal smile. "Because in 3 years working with you, I've never seen you as sad as you've been these last few months. And because I think that man did something very few people achieve, he completely changed his life." That night, Sarah stayed awake thinking. Was it possible that Daniel had left everything because of what he had learned during those weeks in Edinburgh? Because of what he had learned from her? But more importantly, did it matter? The damage was already done. Trust, once broken, was difficult to rebuild. And Sarah had worked too hard to rebuild her life, to risk her heart again. Or at least, that's what she told herself as she marked the Congress date on her calendar, knowing that maybe, just maybe, she would see those blue eyes that still appeared in her dreams. What do you think Sarah will do at the Congress? Will she confront Daniel, or will she focus on her career? Share your predictions in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the thrilling climax. The Congress and the Confession. The International Hotel Congress was held at the Sheraton Hotel in Edinburgh. Sarah arrived early, nervous but determined. She had worked for months on her presentation and wasn't going to let the possibility of encountering Daniel ruin her moment. Her talk was scheduled for 3 in the afternoon. Authentic Hospitality, Beyond Standard Service was the title. Sarah knew she had something valuable to share. At 2:30, she headed to the main auditorium. There were about 200 people waiting, mainly hotel executives, managers, and tourism students. Sarah reviewed her notes one last time and walked onto the stage. "Good afternoon. My name is Sarah Jenkins, and for the past 4 years, I've worked at hotel receptions," she began. "Today I want to talk to you about something I believe we've lost in our industry. Real human connection." Her presentation flowed perfectly. She spoke about how efficiency had replaced warmth, how protocols had killed spontaneity, how guests had become numbers instead of people with stories. "A guest doesn't just buy a room," she explained. "They buy an experience, a moment of their life. And that experience is created in small details. A genuine smile, a personal recommendation, real interest in their well-being." In the 5th row, unnoticed by Sarah at first, sat Daniel. He no longer wore designer suits. He wore jeans and a simple shirt. He had a student backpack and was taking notes in a worn notebook. When Sarah finished her presentation, the applause was long and sincere. During the question session, several people from the audience shared similar experiences, confirming that she had touched on an important point. "Any more questions?" the moderator asked. A hand went up in the 5th row. Sarah felt the world stop when she recognized that voice. How do you manage to maintain that authenticity when you discover that someone hasn't been completely honest about who they are? The silence in the auditorium was dense. Sarah looked directly at him for the first time in 3 months. "I believe authenticity is about who one chooses to be in every moment," she replied firmly. "Not about who one was in the past or what mistakes one made. But I also believe that trust, once broken, requires a lot of work to rebuild." Daniel nodded slowly. When the session ended, Sarah stayed on stage talking to other participants. Daniel waited until everyone had left. "It was an excellent presentation," he said when he approached. "Thank you." They looked at each other in silence for a moment. Sarah noticed the changes. He looked more relaxed, but also more mature. He was no longer the arrogant CEO from the photos, but neither was he the David Miller she had known. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just 5 minutes." "I don't think that's a good idea. Sarah, please, not as the man who lied to you, but as someone who wants to propose something professional." She studied him, curious despite herself. 5 minutes. They sat in a hotel cafe. Daniel placed a folder on the table. "I resigned as CEO a month ago," he began. "Now I'm studying a master's in sustainable tourism, and I'm developing a project." He opened the folder, and Sarah saw architectural plans, market studies, design concepts. "It's a boutique hotel in the Scottish Highlands. 20 unique rooms, each decorated differently. Library, garden for breakfast, focus on local culture, and authentic hospitality." Sarah felt the air escape her lungs. It was exactly what she had described that night in Dean Village. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because I want you to creative director and eventually the majority owner." "Pardon?" 51% of the shares would be yours after 2 years. The project is financed with my money, but the vision, the direction, everything would be yours. Sarah looked at him incredulously. "And what would you gain?" "The opportunity to build something authentic, to create what you dreamed of. And perhaps," he hesitated, "perhaps the chance to prove that I can be the man you were capable of loving." "Daniel, you don't have to give me an answer about us. In fact, I prefer you don't. Just think about the project. It's a legitimate professional offer. I've spoken with other investors. Everything is legally and financially backed." Sarah flipped through the papers. Everything was professionally detailed. There were even references from independent consultants confirming the project's viability. "Why?" she finally asked. "Because you taught me that money without purpose is just paper. Because your vision of authentic hospitality is exactly what the industry needs. And why?" He stopped. "Because I want to do something good in the world. And I can't think of a better way than to make your dream a reality. I need time to think about it. Of course, my number is in the folder. You can contact the lawyers directly if you want to review everything legally before talking to me." Daniel stood up to leave, but Sarah stopped him. "Did you really leave everything? Your company, your life in London?" "I didn't leave everything. I'm still an owner. But I hired professional management. I moved to Edinburgh 2 weeks ago. I'm studying, learning, trying to understand what kind of person I want to be." "And have you discovered anything?" Daniel smiled, and for the first time in months, Sarah saw a completely genuine smile. "I discovered that I prefer to be David Miller, the student who falls in love with intelligent receptionists, than Daniel Hayes, the CEO who doesn't even know how to order pastries without someone else doing it for him." Despite herself, Sarah felt the corners of her mouth curve. "Mr. McGregor's pastries are still the best." "I know. I've been back 3 times. He always asks about you." They remained looking at each other for a moment, and Sarah felt something stir in her chest, something that had been dormant for 3 months. "I'm going to call you," she said finally, "to talk about the project." "Perfect." Daniel walked away, and Sarah was left with the folder in her hands, feeling that maybe, just maybe, second chances truly existed. That night she called Chloe. "Do you remember when you told me that maybe Daniel had found a part of himself that he had lost?" "Yes, I think you were right. And I think I also lost a part of myself when I stopped believing in second chances." "What are you going to do?" Sarah looked at the plans for the boutique hotel, imagining each room, each detail she had dreamed of for years. "I'm going to take a risk. Again." "What do you think Sarah's decision will mean for her future and Daniel's? Is it a risk worth taking? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for the beautiful conclusion. A dream built together 6 months after the Hotel Congress, a year after that painful confrontation in the lobby of the Regal Palace Hotel, and almost 2 years since Daniel arrived, drenched by the rain, to forever change Sarah's life. The morning of Saturday, October 15th, dawned perfectly in the Scottish Highlands. The Highland Haven stood among vineyards and mountains like a dream come true. 20 unique rooms, each decorated with local art, gardens where guests had breakfast among jasmine, and a library that had become the heart of the hotel, just as Sarah had dreamed. But that day, there were no guests. The Highland Haven had closed its doors to celebrate the wedding of its founders. "You're nervous," Chloe observed as she adjusted her sister's veil. "A little," Sarah admitted, looking at herself in the mirror of the bridal suite. "Do you think I'm doing the right thing?" "Sarah, in the last 6 months, I've seen how you've built this place together. I've seen how you laugh, how you argue over curtain colors, how he looks at you when you think no one is watching. If that's not real love, then I don't know what is." Sarah smiled. The last few months had been the most intense of her life. Working alongside Daniel in the construction of the hotel had been like taking an accelerated course in truly getting to know each other. They had argued, negotiated, laughed, and occasionally shouted about every detail of the project. But they had also rebuilt their trust step by step. "Are you ready?" Chloe asked, adjusting her bridesmaid's dress. "I'm ready." The ceremony was held in the main garden, among the rose bushes Daniel had planted, especially for Sarah. The chairs were filled by a perfect mix of guests. The Jenkins family in the front row, Daniel's parents who had flown from London, Richard and the entire team from the Regal Palace Hotel, the new employees of the Highland Haven, Mr. McGregor in his Sunday apron, and even some of the regular guests who had become friends. Mark served as best man, and when it was time for the vows, he approached the microphone. "I've known Daniel since we were 8 years old," he began. "For 24 years, I thought I knew him completely, until he returned from Edinburgh completely changed. At first, I thought he'd lost his mind. Now I understand he had found his heart." He turned to Daniel, who waited at the altar in a simple but elegant suit, a far cry from the designer ones he used to wear. "Daniel, I've seen how Patricia changed my life, how true love doesn't turn you into someone different, but into the best version of yourself. That's what Sarah did for you." Tears streamed freely down the cheeks of several guests when Daniel took the microphone. "Sarah, when I arrived in Edinburgh, I was a man who had everything and valued nothing. You taught me the difference between being successful and being happy. You taught me that real wealth isn't in bank accounts, but in the authentic connections we make with other people." His voice broke slightly. "You taught me that it's worth more to be loved for who I am than respected for what I have. And you taught me that second chances exist, but only if one is willing to be completely honest." Sarah took the microphone with trembling hands. "Daniel, I'm not going to lie and say it's been easy. There were moments in these months when I wanted to run away, when fear was stronger than love. But there were also moments when I saw the man I fell in love with on those rainy nights in Edinburgh. Only this time, without lies." She looked towards the audience, finding her mother's eyes. "You taught me that true love isn't about finding someone perfect, but about finding someone willing to grow with you." The Highland Haven isn't just our hotel. It's proof that two people can build something beautiful when they put their hearts in the same place. When the registrar declared them husband and wife, the kiss was soft, full of promises and second chances. The reception extended late into the night. Mr. McGregor had insisted on preparing the pastries. Richard gave an emotional speech about how love can transform not only people, but entire businesses. And Sarah's mom danced tango with Daniel's dad until everyone applauded. Near midnight, Daniel and Sarah slipped away to the hotel's main terrace. The valley lights twinkled below, and the stars seemed especially bright that night. "Do you regret anything?" Sarah asked, leaning on her husband's shoulder. "That I lied to you at first? That I almost lost this by being a coward? And that I left your life in London?" Daniel looked at her with those blue eyes that had captivated her from day one. "My life is here, with you." "The Highland Haven isn't just a hotel, Sarah. It's our home." The next day, the Highland Haven would reopen its doors. The first guests would be a retired German couple who had read about the hotel in a sustainable tourism magazine. Daniel and Sarah would welcome them together, as equals, as partners in life and in business. The hotel had quickly become a model of authentic hospitality. Guests didn't just come for the unique rooms or the excellent food, but for the feeling of being truly welcome. It was exactly what Sarah had dreamed of, a place where people genuinely connected. "You know what's strangest?" Sarah said as she took off her wedding shoes. "What?" "That it all started because you treated me like any other customer, without knowing who you really were." Daniel laughed. "And now you're my partner, my wife, and the woman who taught me that being rich has nothing to do with money. And what's next?" "Now." Daniel took her in his arms. "We keep building, our hotel, our family, our life, one honest conversation at a time." As they headed to their room, the Highland Haven's master suite they had designed together, Sarah thought about how strange the paths of destiny were. A rainy night, a well-intentioned lie, a broken heart, and a lot of hard work had led to this perfect moment. And tomorrow, when the German guests arrived, she would welcome them with the same genuine smile that had captivated a billionaire disguised as a writer. Because she had learned that true hospitality, like true love, cannot be faked. It can only be lived, one day at a time, with honesty and an open heart. The Highland Haven was more than a hotel. It was proof that happy endings exist, but only for those willing to fight for them. What an incredible journey of trust, forgiveness, and building a dream. What was your favorite moment in Sarah and Daniel's story? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more inspiring true-to-life narratives.